Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another review of Married at First Sight, Tears, Jeers, and 25-cent Martinis. So this episode, the couples were going to meet individually with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal to basically go over some loose ends of their relationship so that they can go ahead and make a better decision of what they're going to do on decision day. So Bao and Johnny, they meet up with, let's start off with Bao and Johnny. So the episode starts with Johnny meets with Ryan to play, I think they're playing pool at Johnny's apartment. I'm not sure where they were at. So they're playing pool and they're talking about their wives, and both of them are struggling with their marriages. Both of them are struggling with developing, romantic feelings for their wives. And Johnny says that every time that he meets with Ryan, they spend a lot of time together, but he says whenever he meets with Ryan, it's like it's not going to be good because Ryan really isn't going to give the best advice to help Johnny make his marriage work, because Ryan is in a really bad situation himself with Brett. I guess they're bonded by their struggles with their marriages. Johnny thinks that Ryan has been too negative with this whole experience. Like he's not putting in enough effort, I guess, which he isn't. And I guess Johnny sees himself as approaching the experiment or approaching this experience a little bit more positively than Ryan, which that's very debatable. So later on that night, Johnny's in bed or getting ready for bed with Bao, and they're in the bed and they're talking, and Johnny says that what he's really missing from the relationship is trust, communication, and a solid friendship. Bao said something about how if you approach a marriage as a friendship, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of being married or something to that effect, which, I totally agree with. Yes, your spouse can be your friend, but it seems like Johnny really wants to start off as friends instead of working this out as a marriage, as husband and wife. He feels like it might be better. They can get to that husband and wife level if they start off with trying to develop a friendship. Bauer really doesn't agree with that. He doesn't have communication and he doesn't have trust, I guess, because he thinks that she's a liar all the time. She's a pathological liar in his eyes. Now, Bauer agrees that these things are missing, but like I said, she doesn't really agree with approaching this marriage as a friendship or starting off with a friendship. Also, Bao says that she says something about how she's always acquiescing or agreeing to the things that Johnny wants to do in this marriage. Like when he had cut off the intimacy, evidently the intimacy is gone now. Bao said that Dr. Viviana had given them suggestions on creating the intimacy or improving the intimacy, and all of that went out the window. And Johnny said that he can't feel that connection with her without having that emotional connection first, without having that, I guess, he doesn't have an attraction for her. Bottom line, let's just stop beating around the bush. He doesn't have an attraction for her. So being intimate with her is difficult for him because he's not attracted to her. And so he needs to develop that attraction before he can get to that intimacy. And maybe one of the ways he thinks he can develop it is by them having that emotional connection with each other. I'm not really sure what's going on. Bao is just not his type, and he's already concluded that. So instead of him working towards the goal of becoming more attractive to her or becoming more attracted to her, he's already shut that door down. Like as soon as he saw her, he had already, oh, okay, yeah, this is one of my homegirls from our college years. I'm just unattracted to her. And he just ran with that. And it doesn't help that in one of the previous episodes when they were on their honeymoon, she said that she doesn't bathe that often. And he seems like I don't know if he's a germaphobe or a neat freak, but when she said that to him, like she said that she doesn't bathe as often as he does. And he bathes 3 times a day. And she says, you bathe more in a day than I do in a week sometimes, which means that she probably takes a bath 3 times a week, which we need that to go up to at least 7, Bao. So maybe that's also a turn off for him if he's a germaphobe, or if he's like a real neat freak and he's showering 3 times a day. Maybe that's also kind of like a turn off for him. It doesn't mean that she's necessarily dirty. Maybe she doesn't really, maybe that's just a turn off for him. I don't know, but he's just unattracted to her for whatever reason. So he talks about how the intimacy is a byproduct of emotional intimacy, that to have that connection before they can, hop into bed together. And so he's not going to want to hop into bed with her if he doesn't have that connection with her. And then he has another one of his, I call them like tantrums or something, where he just, his emotions are so visible, and he's so unable to control himself. He doesn't have to hide his emotions, but he's just so animated. Like when something is not right, when he doesn't feel comfortable with something, he just starts like breathing hard and moving around, and he has all of these weird facial expressions, and he just can't keep still. He just starts acting really silly and crazy whenever he's in an uncomfortable situation. And I don't understand what that's all about. So in the bed, as they're talking, he gets uncomfortable with the conversation, so he just he bounces off the bed. He goes into the bathroom. He says he needs a moment. He says he can't do this right now. And Bao is always so patient with him. She's incredibly patient with him. And if this is how he acts, where he's just like this ball of nerves and can't control his emotions, if this is how he is, I don't think any other woman, I don't see him successfully going into another relationship with someone else. For him, I think, the buck stops at Bao. Because the amount of patience this woman exercises with him is on a Herculean level. That she was just, every time he has these tantrums, every time he reacts like almost like a child, I don't know, she's just right there with him. She's going to see him through it. She's just trying to, calm him down, and she's just going to be patient and wait for him to have his little tantrum until he's ready to come back and continue talking to her. Anyways, so I kind of think that I don't know why, but I think that he probably is interested in someone else. I think he's probably talking to someone else, or he has another woman on his mind, or some woman has reached out to him. I don't know. Maybe because he's already decided that it's not going to work out with Bao. He's already, calling up ex-girlfriends, or maybe he's on these dating websites and he's already found a match. I don't know. But to me, Johnny just seems like I feel like he's distracted by another woman, or he's just so extremely, I just can't imagine him being that turned off by her. The way he doesn't want to have any type of intimacy with her, and not just sex, but like there's nothing. There's no physical affection between them. There's just nothing. I'm just like, she's not, why are you so repulsed by her? She's not that bad. She's not bad at all. She's a very attractive woman. Like, this woman is showing that she's attracted to you. She's interested in you. She's into you. She wants to make it work with you. And still, you're just like, I'm just not attracted to her. I just don't find her attractive. Like, what? Anyways. So they do the little expert session. They have their sessions with the experts. Johnny meets with Dr. Pepper, and she tells him that he needs to express his anger in a way that allows growth and change, and that he shouldn't say things that are so hurtful to Bao. And he agrees with that. I mean, how could he not? So he agrees that he'll watch how he talks to her and how he expresses his anger how he expresses his anger, disappointment, or whatever, to just be more caring, just to be more respectful of her, not necessarily just as your wife, but just as another human being. Because the things that he has said to her in the past about, like when they were meeting with Dr. Cal on FaceTime, and this was after the family crawfish boil, and he told Pastor Cal that he didn't want her to come to the crawfish boil because he didn't want his family being attached to her when he didn't even like her. And he says that while she's sitting right next to him. I mean, I don't understand. I don't know if it's maybe because I know he has a strained relationship with his father, because his father was not at all supportive of this whole experience. So I don't know if like maybe the emotional disconnect that he has with his dad, or whatever trauma that he suffered from his dad, he's now putting that on Bao because that's what he experienced as a child with his father. I don't know how someone can say those things, especially when you yourself, not no one should ever talk to anyone like this, no matter what you look like. But it's like between the two of them, I think Bao is the more attractive one. And you're not Denzel Washington, you're not Brad Pitt or whatever, for you to sit there and to degrade this woman like, she's the dirt on the bottom of your shoe like that, and you're not that, it's just like, to me, it's sort of, it's just like, this is a Twilight Zone. So Bao, Bao meets with Pastor Cal, and she tells Pastor Cal, or she said in her confessional, that she married a man that just wasn't ready for marriage. And I totally 100% believe that. Because even if he's not feeling these sparks and these fireworks and these explosions, and his stomach isn't, filled with butterflies every time she walks into a room, he needs to treat her a little bit more respectfully. And he's just not doing that. And so if you're not mature, you're not ready for marriage. She feels that Johnny's 80% out the door. Yes, we agree with you, Bao. He's distracted by something else, or he's really, really, really not that into you. Johnny, to me, I think Johnny's emotionally abusive, the way he talks to her, the way he makes her feel. You don't even, sometimes, even if you don't use cuss words, the things that you can say to someone can really tear them down. And I think that Johnny is emotionally abusive to her because he says things to her that break her down emotionally, that just break her down mentally. This is sort of like an abusive relationship. And it's an abusive in a way that the things that he says, it's just really, I can't believe that. And she takes it. And she doesn't even retaliate. When he said to Pastor Cal that one time of the reason why he didn't take her to the family crawfish boil was because I don't even like her. And she didn't even come back with, and you're no catch either. She could have said she could have said a slew of things to him, and she didn't. So many times when he's attacked her in this way, she could come back. And her comebacks would be on point because he's not that great of a catch. But she doesn't. She just takes it and she tries to make it better. And it's talking about this is heartbreaking. Johnny doesn't have the emotional maturity. She says that he doesn't have the emotional maturity to be a caring or a loving husband or father. She tells Pastor Cal that there is no intimacy between them. And every time that they try to get deep, it doesn't work. So Pastor Cal says, well, just don't get deep anymore. Just keep it real surface, keep the communication really light, and ask level 1 questions. Don't ask him questions that are too deep, that requires him to dig deep into his soul. And, just keep it real light, real surface, and then maybe he'll choose to go deeper. I didn't understand that advice at all that Pastor Cal gave. Now, when they're all meeting with Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper, of course the experts are going to give them advice to try to make the marriage work because that's what they're there for. But, excuse me, sometimes I'm like, sometimes you gotta call a thing. And why would you want this woman to stay in this relationship where she's being emotionally abused by this man? So then Bao and Johnny have a talk. Oh yeah, did I talk about Johnny and I did talk about Johnny and Dr. Pepper and their conversation, which was like whatever, because he's not going to do anything that she tells him to do. So Bao and Johnny have a conversation after they meet with the experts, and Johnny starts off by apologizing for the things that he has said in the past, and his body language and his facial expressions are, and then Bao asks him, well, when things get tough with us, can you just not leave? Can you not run away? And Johnny says, well, I don't run away. I need to take a breather so I don't explode. See, that's not marriage. You're not approaching this as a marriage. As much as I don't want Bao to stay with Johnny, when they have their disagreements, I don't think that the solution is for him just to leave. You don't that's not how you approach marriage, just by walking out the door every single time you're upset about something. That's not marriage. So what you need to do is you need to learn how to control your anger. You need to know how to talk to your wife, and you need to stay home. Johnny says that when he first, because they had met before, years before, I think 10 years or 15 years prior, whenever they were in college, they had met before. And Johnny tells his wife, he tells Bao, right after Dr. Pepper talked to him about, you need to just be a little bit more respectful in how you talk to her and how you express yourself to her. And you need to express yourself in a way that allows change and growth. Right after all of that, he tells Bao that there was no chemistry between them back then in college when he first met her. There's no chemistry between them now. And he said that if this was a first date, there would be no second date. He would have no reason to ever see her again. And he tells her this right after he had his meeting with Dr. Pepper. Moving on to Marla and Gil. So, meeting with Pastor Cal. Gil meets with Pastor Cal. He tells Pastor Cal from the beginning that, he thinks that Marla, she's very loving, she's very caring, and I can definitely see that. It's not that obvious in her, but I do see it, that she is a loving and caring person. Once she really got comfortable with him, it's beginning to show. Her softer side is beginning to show. But he says that she can be a Debbie Downer, and that her negativity and her tantrums is a bit much for him. And it changes him. It changes his mood. So if they're out somewhere having a good time, and then she's acting all all sour and unhappy, and she's got her frown on her face, and she doesn't like the environment, and she doesn't like what's going on, it affects him. Now, he's not having a good time. So then Marla meets with Dr. Pepper. Marla was drunk when she met with Dr. Pepper. She was really drunk because the night before, I guess she was out with her girlfriends partying, and she was still, in that zone. And so it was so obvious. She was really drunk. And I was like, how can they conduct this meeting with her being drunk as drunk as she is? So anyways, she tells Dr. Pepper that Gil has exceeded her expectations of what a husband should be. She starts crying. She gets emotional. He's everything that she's ever wanted in a husband and more. And Dr. Pepper tries to encourage her to be less critical, not to be a Debbie Downer, and to be more positive, because it's going to help her marriage in the long run, because you don't want to lose a good man because you're so negative about every little thing. Marla and Gil talk. And so when they talk, he does tell her, he expresses his feelings to her about, when you're a Debbie Downer, this is how it affects me, and this is how I feel. And she takes it all in. She listens. And so they try to come up with a solution. This is what I love about some of these couples on this show. I like it when they can identify a problem and then they try to come up with a solution collectively. I love that. So they try to figure out, so when Marla gets in these moods, what can we do? What can Gil do? What can Marla do when she wants to get into her little tantrums? And she tells him that, well, you're already doing what you need to do when I get like that, when I get moody. He calms her down, he makes her laugh, he makes her feel more comfortable, and it distracts her from being a Debbie Downer. And then he tells her, well, the solution would be for you to not get moody at all. That would be great. But if you do get like that, he says, I want you to be more affectionate towards me. I want you to, hold his hand or whatever. He wants her to be more affectionate whenever she gets into one of her tantrums. So that was nice. I like Marla and Gil. Okay, Michaela and Zach. So Michaela meets with Pastor Cal, and she says to Pastor Cal that she's really curious to know what marriage looked like for Zach. How did he envision marriage to be? And so Pastor Cal tells her, when you get a chance, ask him that. He has this ideal of what marriage is, and she wants to just basically know. Pastor Cal said, nothing can ever live up to your fantasies, to your ideal of how something should be. And how is he adjusting with the reality of marriage, with what he envisioned marriage would be? And then she says that she wants, what does she call him? She wants Happy Zach back. For a while in the beginning, Zach was really happy, really fun to be with. But then as time went on, it's like he's changing. There's something going on with him, and he's just not that happy. And so she wants to figure out, she wants him to be happy again. And then she says something about, I think Pastor Cal asked her, so how are you going to make that happen? And she's like, well, he's a grown man. He can make himself happy. And Pastor Cal was like, well, you're in a marriage. So yes, it's true. You're not responsible to make him happy. That is not your responsibility to make him happy, but you need to facilitate that happiness in him, because as his wife, you should help him get to that part where he is happier. And that's what marriage is about, according to Pastor Cal. So Zach meets with Dr. Pepper, and he says that he told Dr. Pepper something about how, marriage is not, he doesn't feel like this whole thing is meant to be. He doesn't have that strong meant to be feeling towards Michaela. And Dr. Pepper says, well, she doesn't believe in things being meant to be. She believes in opportunities, that things are opportunities. There's an opportunity, I guess, and you take it. And so they talk about that. And then he breaks down when he says that he has this problem with being a perfectionist, and he wants everything to be perfect. And I guess he wants his marriage to be perfect. And for him, a perfect marriage is whatever he fantasized it to be. And he feels like he's failed if it's not that. And so Dr. Pepper tries to talk to him through that. And so sometimes when I watch this show and I see the emotional breakdowns that some of these people have on the show, I really wonder if these people were actually ready to be married. Because you take people who could be very fragile, who could be dealing with a lot of unresolved issues, and then you throw them into something so serious as marriage, where they have to get along with a complete stranger. And I wonder, is that healthy? What's going on here? This is the reason why some people might think that the dating process is important, because you can kind of figure out if you're ready to take that next step. And in this situation, it's like one day they're single, the next day they're married, and they need to make it work with a stranger. And that's just kind of weird to me sometimes. But moving on. It is what it is. So Michaela and Zach, they sit down and they have a conversation, and he says, and so with his issue of wanting everything to be perfect, in his school, in his work life, in his personal life, his need to have everything perfect, I guess, has ruined a lot of relationships for him. And so she asks him, what does marriage look like to him? And he tells her his idea of marriage. This is what he sees in his mind. It's him and his wife in the kitchen, cooking, music playing, children running around. That's his idea of a perfect marriage. Michaela says that her idea of a perfect marriage, what does she say? She says something about having that partnership with someone. I forgot what she said, but it wasn't it wasn't the same. Their vision was not the same. Michaela, she doesn't want to dwell too much into the future, such as, making plans about where they're going to live, how they're going to merge their two lives together when this whole experiment is over. She doesn't want to think about that, because she has her guard up and she doesn't really see a future. So she doesn't really want to put too much thought and energy in this whole future thing. Okay, so that's them. Brett and Ryan. Okay, this was a snooze fest. Let me go ahead and get through them really, really quick. So Brett meets with Pastor Cal. Brett wants honeymoon Ryan back because from the day they got married up until the week after the honeymoon, everything was going great. Ryan was great. He was affectionate. He was giving her attention. They were connecting. They were vibing. Everything was wonderful, moving in the right direction. And then a week after they came back from the honeymoon, something just flipped in him, and he hasn't been the same since. He's not feeling her. There's no intimacy. Obviously, it seems like they're not attracted to each other, and she's wondering if he's even wanting to make it work. She says that she's willing to make it work if he's willing to make it work. Ryan meets with Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper tells him from the bat, your marriage is definitely going sideways. That's what she says. She says your marriage is going sideways. he said that he realized that when Dr. Viviana came to meet them, that he realized that things were not right at all. And she tells him that he needs to vocalize his issues. Whatever problems that you're having, you need to vocalize them with her. You need to communicate with her. Let her know how you're feeling. Let her know how, what you're thinking. If there's something about her that's bothering you, you need to communicate that with her. And that she says that he hasn't really put in the effort to make it work, which he hasn't, because, he's made up his mind. She's not my type, so that's it. Brian and Brett have their conversation. It seemed like Ryan kind of maybe has hope for them when they're talking. He does admit that he hasn't put in enough effort. And while he's talking, Brett is really tight-lipped. Pastor Cal gave Brett an assignment when he met with her. He told her that she needs to ask him, when did he check out of the marriage? At what point did he realize that this was not going to work? She needs to ask him that. And so when they're talking, just the two of them, and Ryan asked her, so what did you and Pastor Cal talk about? She didn't say anything. She just kind of was like, oh, we just talked about me and my issues. And she left it at that. She never asked him, well, when did you check out of them? And I wonder why she didn't. I was waiting for her to ask him that, but she never did. And that was the one thing that Pastor Cal told her to do. Ask that man when he checked out of this marriage. And she didn't ask him. Okay, so then then we got to go through Rachel and Jose. Okay, Rachel and Jose. Jose is definitely controlling. He meets with Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pepper's like, look, you're really controlling. You need to loosen up on that. You have a bad temper. You need to calm down on that. And you need to kind of look at things through Rachel's eyes and not just through your eyes, because you see things the way you want to see them, and you think that your way is the only way, your way is the right way, and you need to drop that. You need to kind of consider how she may see things. And just because she sees things differently doesn't make it wrong. Just because you see things the way you see them doesn't make it right. Rachel meets with Pastor Cal. She says Jose is the man for her. She wants to be with him. She wants to work it out with him. But the next time he locks her out, she's out. She says that Jose has a bad temper and that he can be very vindictive. And I'm like, wow, those are some really powerful words. Why would you want to stay married to a very vindictive man? And he was vindictive. I'm assuming she's saying he's vindictive towards her, his wife. Vindictive. I mean, that's a very strong word. But she says that he's got a bad temper and he can be very vindictive. And she doesn't know if she is exactly what he needs. But she says that she wants to be with him and she wants to make it work. They have their conversation together. His issue is she going to be like a runaway bride? He's worried that, if she gets too bored, if things don't go her way, is she going to leave? And she tells him that, no, I'm not going to leave, because before, when I've laughed, when I've cheated or whatever she did in the past, was because she was not married. Now that she's actually in a marriage, she understands that it's different from being single, and that she's not gonna just up and leave when the going gets tough. She's going to want to stick it out and work it out. That's what she said. So then they all have beach volleyball. All the couples get together to play beach volleyball. Bao is the cheerleader. She shows up in a little cute cheerleader outfit. When she arrived, everybody else was already there, even Johnny. So when she came, Johnny actually took the time to go up to her, and he gave her a kiss and a hug. And that really took her, she was surprised by that. It took her off guard. She said that she didn't know if he did that because, maybe the cheerleading outfit kind of turned him on a little bit, or he was just trying to put up a front in front of everybody else to make it look like he's this affectionate husband when he's really not. Brett said that, so then after they play beach volleyball, they kind of break off into groups. I don't remember who was grouped with who, but they kind of are sitting on benches on the beach, and not benches, but like picnic tables. And Brett was talking to Merla and Bao. And they're talking about, what they talked about with the experts. And Brett tells them that she says Pastor Cal was really kind of pissed. He was really pissed at Ryan. I don't remember Pastor Cal being pissed. I have seen Pastor Cal pissed, and that was with, that was with your boy Chris last year. But I didn't think Pastor Cal was pissed at Ryan. Why would he be pissed at Ryan? I don't know why she said that. And then Bao says that Johnny is mean. His words are really, really mean. And she tells Brett and Marla that as soon as Dr. Pepper told him to watch how he talked to her, he meets up with her and he says something really mean to her. Like, he learned absolutely nothing. And Brett said that some people in this experiment view marriage as something very real, while others don't at all. Now we are moving on to the coup de grace, or however you want to call it, the highlight of the episode, which was Michaela and Zach at the end of the episode. That was really something. So after beach volleyball, they come home, Michaela and Zach, and they have a conversation about decision day. Now, we don't see the conversation. They both have their own little handheld cameras, and they're basically retelling how the argument started. So, because when the scene begins, there's an exterior shot of the whole entire apartment building, as, you know, it's like zooming in, this aerial shot, and you can hear their voices, and they're arguing about sleeping in the same room. So they tell us that they had a fight because they were having a discussion about decision day, and Michaela said that they have both decided that if decision day was today, that they would both decide to not stay married, to get a divorce. And so Michaela said, well, if we both would decide we would not want to be with each other, if today was decision day, then we're not going to sleep in the same room. And so Zach didn't like that. He didn't understand why they would have to sleep in separate rooms. And so Michaela was like, we both said we don't want to be with each other, so why would we sleep in the same bed? And so Zach then says, well, what did he say? He says, well, if we're not going to sleep in the same room, then I'm going to leave. And I'm just like, y'all are talking about something hypothetical. A hypothetical question was asked either by Zach or Michaela. I think it was Zach that asked it. So based on a hypothetical question, it's going to turn into him leaving the home, him walking out. And so then they were having this argument about, Michaela was telling Zach, I didn't say that I would not choose to be with you when decision day comes. You asked me if decision day was today, what would I say? Now, I may say something different on the actual decision day because things change. Things are up and down with us. It's always something different with us. So today I might feel one way and tomorrow I might feel another way, and then I might feel another way on decision day. So the question asked was, what would I decide if decision day was today? So I guess they're having this argument about semantics, this argument about this theoretical question, and now it's turned into this huge blowout. And he's like, well, I'm not going to sleep in here. I'm going to leave. And he leaves. I guess he left. Yeah, he did leave. And that's another thing. You don't do that. You don't leave. And this is really immature. These people are really immature. And then for him to even ask her that, I don't know if he was worried about something that he felt the need to ask her, what would you decide if today was decision day? I don't understand, because it seemed like these people, you never know. The episode will end with them like, oh, we're great. We're going to make it work. And then the beginning of the next episode, they're screaming at each other. Someone has moved out. They're not talking to each other. It's just like so hot and cold with them. It's so frustrating because it's so immature. When you're married, I don't believe that married couples should sleep in separate rooms. I think that you should always sleep in the same room. Ideally, if you're having an argument, you need to try to work it out before you go to bed. That would be the ideal thing. But I don't believe that they should sleep in separate rooms. I don't think that you should leave the home if you're mad at your spouse. I don't think that's good, because when you have children and they see daddy walking out or mommy walking out, that's very scary for a child. They don't know if that parent is going to come back. That's very traumatizing. And you need to not get into that habit of walking out, because every time you feel comfortable leaving because you're mad at your wife or you're mad at your husband, who's to say you're not going to do that when you have children? if you're comfortable doing that, if that's how you handle your problems and you're used to doing that, you might do that in front of the kids. And that's just not right if you should have children. And if you don't have children, you still shouldn't do it. You should not leave the home because you're going to have arguments. You're going to have fights. The solution is not walking out. If you need a breather, you should tell your partner, I need a breather. Or if you really need to really like distance yourself because things are really going out of hand, step outside, have a cigarette, have a beer, maybe go walk around Walmart or something and then come back. But don't leave for the night. Don't just walk out don't spend the night away from your spouse. I don't think that's right. And so he says, well, I'm just going to go home then. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to go home? You are home. Home is where your wife is. This is home. Remember, you're married. This is your wife. Remember that? Okay, whatever. So then the next day he meets with his brothers on Zoom or FaceTime or something. He talks to his two brothers on the computer and he tells his two brothers what happened. And they believe that when he had threatened to leave, Michaela really didn't want him to leave. And most likely she didn't want him to leave, but he says, I'm leaving. And she says, okay, what else is she going to say? He said he's leaving. Now, the brothers were like, oh, Michaela, she should have just told you to stay because she didn't want you to leave. She should have just told you that she really didn't want you to leave. And he's like, yeah, I agree with that. Well, what I agree with is you never should have threatened to leave. You messed up by doing that. You offer something, someone's going to take that offer, and then you're going to be boo-hooing later because they took your offer. You said you were going to leave, which you should not have said. And she was like, what is she going to do? Beg you, get down on her knees and wrap her arms around your legs and beg you not to leave? You say you're going to leave, then leave. But you should never have said that to her, Zach. You shouldn't threaten your wife that you're going to leave the house. You shouldn't have done that. That was your fault. That was all your fault. You should not have done that. You know that Michaela didn't want you to leave. You should have stayed. So she texted him and told him that, well, if you're leaving, then I'm not going to be here in the morning, or I'm not going to be here when you come back. And then she moved out completely. This is so immature. This is so immature. I think that Married at First Sight should have like an age limit. No, nobody younger than 35. I'm not saying that people 35 and older cannot be immature. We know that they can be, but I feel like when they're in their 20s and stuff, they're still trying to figure themselves out. I don't know if their bodies are still, maturing and growing. Anyone under 35 and up should be the requirement, because the way these people are handling this, it's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I'm sounding like a broken record. And the brothers agree that Michaela overreacted. I'm like, what? Moving on. I forgot. There's a whole lot more to go. I thought that was the last part of it. Brett meets with Ryan's sister. And so she tells the sister that, that they're struggling. And the sister's like, yeah, I kind of heard that y'all are having problems. And, she tells the sister, he tells me that I'm not his type, and I get that, because guess what? He's not my type. But she thought that they could try to still work things out. And she tells her sister that everything was good until they came back from the honeymoon. And like a week after the honeymoon is when everything fell apart. And the sister said, well, the only thing that I can think of is that I didn't understand what she was saying, but it seemed like she was implying that there's something in Houston that like he hooked up. I don't know if Houston was bringing him memories of an ex, or coming back to Houston, he reconnected with somebody. Like the sister said that he's distracted. Something is distracting him. And for him to go from hot to cold that quickly, for him just to switch up on you that quickly, because they showed flashback scenes of them at the honeymoon, and he was really into her. It seemed like he was really into her. And I do remember him at the wedding, the honeymoon. It seemed like he was really attracted to her, because he even said he was lucky that they matched him with a very attractive woman. He even said that he was attracted to her. They were affectionate with each other. And then as soon as they came back from their honeymoon, he was like a completely different person. So, the sister said that he was definitely, something is distracting him. And I'm wondering what that could be. Did he reconnect with someone? or what? What's happening? It makes sense, though, for him to turn like that and to be that cold towards Brett. It makes me think that there's someone else involved. So, yeah, I'm finally at the end. Oh, my God. The show is so long. Let me make sure I'm really at the end because, Lord have mercy. When you think you're done, you're not. I think I am. Thank God. Anyways, that's my review of Married at First Sight. If you like this review, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you really like my content, go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I will definitely be talking to you later. Bye.